This is for all the poets out there. Conditional constructs. If I am the dust on the window pane, you are the violet wave of light around the Japanese iris. If you are the yellow pistil in the lily's white throat, I am the highest note of the nightingale's Arabic song. If I am the key to a door that doesn't lock, you are the house in North Carolina next to railroad tracks. If you are the scent of ripe peaches in a blue enamel bowl, I am the sandalwood heart inside the peach. If I am wisteria vines on a dead pine, you are kudzu climbing the telephone pole. You are the orbit of a falling stone. I am the boat without oars in the middle of a silent lake. The next one I'm going to read needs a little bit of an introduction, I guess. It's a poem that was written about the earliest thing that I can remember from being very, very young and just seeing a piece of fruit in a bowl and feeling sorry for it because it was all by itself. It was this lonely apple. And I worked on this poem for years. It was a series of couplets or two-line stanzas. And then I got to the very end, and I couldn't figure out how to end it because I kept trying to come up with two lines that would work together, and nothing was working. And it wasn't until after I went through a divorce and found this poem in my desk drawer, just kind of shoved off, that I realized I didn't have to continue that pattern. I didn't have to have two lines at the end. I could end the poem with one line. And it's just one of those things where it's an experience of, does art imitate life or does life imitate art? I don't know. It's called Still Life with One Apple. From earliest memory, one apple in a bowl predating speech. Spores of sunlight floating on air like pollen from the garden of Hesperides. In childhood, I wanted everything in pairs. Animals entering Noah's Ark 2 by 2, the symmetry of hand in hand, bride and groom. I thought the apple needed another apple, or at least the company of an orange or pear. That the apple was lonely, that everything, even an apple in a bowl, had a soul. Was it wrong to believe the apple could suffer and bleed, to project my own needs onto that fruit? To believe only a membrane of matter and speed separates blood from stone and bone from apple seed? To see the apple as a symbol of the universal soul, as in Georgia O'Keeffe's green apple on black plate, a study in simplicity. Still life with an empty bowl. I ate the apple to make it whole. The next one is another childhood poem, I guess. I was a very curious little kid, and I had two older sisters growing up, and so I became very curious about the facts of life when I was 8 or 9 years old. And I remember asking my mother some questions that she was uncomfortable answering. So she went to the doctor's office and got a medical book and brought that back for me to read. And I could understand everything on a molecular level, but I couldn't understand how it all came together. So this poem is called Misconception. It was like catching a cold. If he coughed without covering his mouth, if he sneezed, you could have his baby. Or so I believed. At the age of 9, when I read the chapter on reproduction in a medical text, I knew the facts of life had nothing to do with storks and bees, but I couldn't figure out the mechanics of sex. That tab A had to be inserted into slot B like the cardboard figures cut from the Rice Krispies box that always fell apart when I tried to put them together. Conception was a kind of weather, or photosynthesis, as leaves absorb sunlight and turn green. I thought a man's floating spores could penetrate a woman's pores, that they could be on opposite sides of the room, just looking at each other or looking out the window. One could be reading the newspaper and the other playing heart and soul on the piano when wham, bam, sperm and egg collide, and 9 months later she becomes a mother. I thought the microscopic sperm could pass like germs from unwashed hands, contaminate a doorknob, spoon, or drinking glass, or as Casper floated through brick walls on Saturday morning cartoons, believing a wife could receive her husband's seed, like milkweed sown from the pod, that every birth was a miracle, a gift from God, that all you need is love. Sometimes I still think I had it right the first time.